Hello and welcome to LFC Transfer Room match preview. It's been a rough week. Things haven't gone our way. The season hasn't started as we'd expected. We are one place above our competition. And today I'm joined by Matty, Owen, and a special guest, Jon from Cherries Red Army. So I'm going to start with you, Jon. Are you excited? How's your week been and build up to the match?
Yeah, definitely excited. A build-up is still, I'd imagine, a bit different to yours, obviously. We're still sort of treating this as our third free hit before the season actually starts next week. Obviously, still plenty of transfer talk going around for every club. So, yeah, still a lot to be excited about, even if this game is always going to be a very difficult one to get anything from.
Yeah, because Bournemouth, you started with Villa, then you had Man City, then you had Arsenal, and now you've got us, which has got to be a horrific start to the season. But you got 3 points against Villa, so pretty much from a free hit, you're ahead of what you probably expect to be, wouldn't you?
Thank God we did get those 3 points against Villa, because we knew what we were going into these few games. But if we had been on 0 points, then I think the atmosphere would be a lot different at the moment.
Matty, are you at the game tomorrow? Are you ready for it?
Me?
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah. At the academy first, watching the under-18s, which I'm really looking forward to be honest. First time seeing Ben Dowick this season, who came in from Celtic. He's bagged a few already this year, and then straight over to the ground to watch the mighty Reds. I'm not going to be overly confident because I was against Fulham and it bit me in the arse, so I'm going to be modest.
Owen, are you confident that this is it? I mean, I watched the press conference with Klopp earlier, and he seemed eerily calm. Is the way that I put it on the group chat. He seemed like to have a calmness and a stillness about him going into it, like he knew something was going to happen. How are you feeling about the game?
I don't really know how to feel about it. Same as Matty, really. I think it's probably the ideal opponent. No disrespect to Bournemouth. When you look at the way they kind of set up attacking-wise, with Kiefer Moore up front, or Dominic Solanke, it kind of falls into Liverpool's hands because no matter what, Liverpool are going to set up with the high line. So having that pace up front for Bournemouth could be a big issue for them if they don't have that. So yeah, I think you know what you're going to get from Liverpool. So it's down to Bournemouth for what they're going to do about it, really.
Yeah, and if you are new here, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you do want to follow the Cherries Red Army, even if it's just for bantering purposes for this weekend, where you can have a bit of back and forth. The team are there, they're responsive, they get involved in the conversation, don't they, Jon? You're ready to give and take a little bit. Hopefully you can give a little bit more. But when I was on the Bournemouth show with you guys, there's a little bit of hesitance in the fan base at the moment, isn't it? I don't think it's like you don't feel like you're playing great football. You're quite a pragmatic team. How would you best describe Bournemouth's style, I guess?
It's difficult because we've pretty much changed style in the Premier League compared to what was getting us success in the Championship. We've moved from a 4-3-3, which had good combinations down the left side particularly, but relied on a possession-heavy style to sort of gradually create chances. And we've shifted to a 5-4-1, although played 5-3-2 against Arsenal, which really didn't work, in order to try and basically just try and shore up as much as possible against sides. Most sides are going to be expecting to beat us. So we're looking to play a lot more defensively, a lot more pragmatic, get it up the pitch quicker, try and counterattack a little bit more. But, it's still relatively new in terms of like what Parker is trying to instill in the team. And, the fact that we were so used to, and we've been very lucky over the years to have, well over half a decade of Eddie Howe, who was just will score more than you type football, to be basically the opposite now is rubbing a lot of supporters up a little bit the wrong way. Losing 3-0 and 4-0 against City and Arsenal isn't really beyond what most fans would expect, but it's the fact that we produced one shot on target in both games and didn't really go for it. That's the thing that sort of a lot of fans are a little bit worried about at the moment. This whole season is gonna turn into a damp squib, which it might do. But we've still only been through some really hard games so far. So we'll see what happens when we're playing against teams that we actually think we might have a chance against.
No, there's Helios just put one in, which is RIP Olivia Pratt-Corbel. What's going on in your Scouser City? It's bad state of affairs at the moment, isn't it, Matty? You're based in Liverpool. It's not great, is it? I don't know if Matty's there. He's froze on me. But Owen, when difficult times come together, football's something that brings a lot of people together. And it's not a harsh rivalry between Liverpool and Bournemouth. We're not massive enemies or anything like that. It's just, we need something, don't we? We need something positive every weekend in our lives. And I think football's one of those things. And seeing things like what's happened to Liverpool, it's tragic, isn't it?
Well, the football kind of just becomes irrelevant, doesn't it, when you see stuff like that? And the sad thing is, stuff like this isn't become particularly rare if you see it now as a norm. And you kind of just think, oh, it's the common thing nowadays. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be how it is in the news, with all the shock and the sadness, really. And your only thoughts can go out to the family and friends of her.
Yeah. And Matty, I was just saying, you're in the city. You're obviously based in the city. It's just heartbreaking, isn't it, mate?
Yeah. I think it's the third person shot in as many days in the city. And there's been someone stabbed to death. And then there was something else as well. It's just been like the purge or something the past few days. It's mad. But it's shocking, absolutely shocking what's happened to that little girl. There's been a GoFundMe page going around as well from a group of Scousers I think have organised it, and they've raised, I think, about 27 grand to give it the best send-off ever. So it's good to see the city rallying together in that sense, because there's no space for that. But unfortunately, at the minute, Liverpool's just really not the best place.
And, without going too political, and we will move back onto the game, seeing the energy price caps coming up, seeing that people are going to be put under more pressure, minimum wage housing, people are going to be paying best part of £5,000 per year for energy bills when you consider the average joint housely income is £32,000. People are going to be really struggling when it comes to it. And, we're here to talk about football and what gets us away from these horrific things, but sometimes it's just worth pausing and mentioning a few horrible things. Just because it's so important.
So that will be a thing as well, as if you are going to the game tomorrow, there's been quite a few talks that there's going to be a minute of pause for it. I think it's in the 7th minute. If you do see people start standing and clapping, please join in. It is for a good thing.
Right, we're going to move back onto the game. We're going to move on to questions for Jon, because Jon, Cherries Army are pinging you with questions. They want to see you struggle. They want to see you sweat a little bit. So should Scott Parker put Anthony or Billing on Trent Alexander-Arnold from an attacking point of view? Because we're seeing a lot of teams attack Liverpool at the space vacated by Trent and then try and cross it in against Trent, because Trent's aerial ability isn't his major strength on the defensive side of things, bottom 8% in world football on aerial 1. How would you attack Liverpool? How would you set Bournemouth up if you were Scott Parker?
Yes, I think that when you're going up against some of the better sides in world football, in terms of, with Liverpool on their best day, you need to try and find whatever you can to try and get any advantage possible. And as much as, there's been a lot of talk about it, maybe more so than necessary, it's still the truth. And as you put in, James, he's in bottom 8% for aerial duels win rate in terms of in European football, I think. So Kiefer Moore, if Dominic Solanke doesn't play, which is about 50-50 at this point, certainly Kiefer Moore will definitely be the striker. And I'd imagine goal kicks and, even opportunities in open play, they'll probably end up putting Kiefer Moore on that side, because regardless of who plays with him at centre-back, it's also going to be a centre-back that doesn't get regular game time with Van Dijk. And Robertson is stronger on the left. Van Dijk is still, even if he maybe has not been quite the player that we expect him to be, he's still Virgil van Dijk. He's still a very good defender, whereas Gomez has been a little bit fallible when covering for Trent. Matip isn't fit. Konate isn't fit. There's definitely opportunities that if we go down that our left-hand side, you're right, then we may well look to create something. Jadon Anthony is a quite promising young winger who's very good at finding passes beyond the line of defence. But if we don't have Solanke, do we necessarily have the guy that's going to really run the channel there? Kiefer Moore has got more pace than you'd think, but he's not lightning quick. So, it's we're going to try and make the best that we can, and I'd expect certainly Zamora to be asked to be pushed very high up on left wing back to try and create an overload on that left hand side. That's one of the ways that we can try and create something, but it also depends on what formation Parker puts out, because we could play a 5-4-1, but in the second half against Arsenal, we switched back to our 4-3-3 and we actually produced some half decent passing football. Didn't create too much, but we certainly were a lot better. So he might switch back to a 4-3-3, considering that Liverpool's midfield is currently an area where they are, lacking strength because of injuries. Again, Fabinho didn't start against United. Thiago's injured. I'm not going to say our midfield is comparable to yours, in that way, but it's definitely a good situation we can try and take advantage of if we pack the midfield a little bit more. So it depends on what Parker thinks to happen. And, even if it was during COVID, he was the manager of the last team to beat Liverpool at Anfield. So, he's done it once, he could do it again.
Very true. But Owen, and I'm not saying this just because you're on, John. If you were to pick a team for Liverpool to play at home in the Premier League after a bad start to the season, Bournemouth have got to be in the top 3, haven't they?
Yeah, you struggle to look past them, really. Just the style of play, I think it perfectly suits Liverpool, perfectly suits the press. And then, Kiefer Moore up front. I've touched on it before. If you can get Kiefer Moore crosses even just inside the box, then he's dangerous. But there's not going to be, you wouldn't have thought, many opportunities for that for Bournemouth. See Harvey Elliott, Fabio Carvalho, and they'll probably come in. So, it's going to be kind of a good football team, if you like. We're going to be playing a lot of smooth, pass and move, 1-2s, how you saw when those players did come on. When Carvalho came on against Man United, we started to play and create chances. So if we can play like that against Bournemouth, then I think it will be good. But I'd struggle to see where Bournemouth's attacking outlet will come from. I think Billing, he did well last season in the Championship, but not a particularly prolific goal scorer, put it like that.
Yeah, Matty, there seems to be a lack of pace to really exploit Liverpool's weaknesses in that Bournemouth team for me. I don't see them getting in behind, because Van Dijk and Gomez are very quick. So to really get in behind, you've got to have someone very, very quick, if that makes sense.
Yeah and no, because Mitrovic isn't the fastest, and he done it. So who knows at the minute. But do you know what? I'm quite confident, because I don't know if you've seen Klopp's press conference. He just looks really angry. Like, apparently they didn't have the day off from that, which can affect players if they're thinking of having a day off and they've got to come in and do a Klopp training session, then that's going to affect them. Do you know what I mean? And I think
injuries,
probably, yeah. It's interesting that we still haven't replaced the club doctor, though. That just seems like it's a bit of a mad decision. But I think we might do a 4-2-3-1 tomorrow, just to go at it a bit more. Maybe that's our best option, putting, say, Hendo, although he was atrocious in that 6 against United, maybe putting him in Fab. So he's got to cover a Fab then as well. Or even throw Bajcetic. I don't like, no disrespect to Bournemouth, but we can make this as a game where we can maybe give players like that a little go rather than just getting 20 minutes at the end of games. You know what I mean? This is a game where you can probably not rest Jordan Henderson, just do what's right and get out the start 11 really, and then you could then put Diaz, Carvalho, Elliott all behind Salah. It's something different, and then they've got 4 people running at them then. and it just gives them a different dimension. Because they wouldn't have prepared for that. I'm assuming they would have prepared for 4-3-3 all week, because that's what Liverpool play. So to mix it up last minute, get like allow Elliott and Carvalho to play there, I think it'll help. Carvalho obviously played against Bournemouth last year. I don't know if he scored or his internet's too bad at the minute. I think he's leaving shit. But he's a belter player, to be fair. So I think something like that would be decent.
I think you make a good point. Jake's not named in the under-21s team, and he didn't play any minutes, which makes you think that he's definitely going to be in the squad. Obviously, we named 2 keepers in the last squad. Well, 3 keepers in the last squad. So that's not necessarily a glowing thing that he's going to be starting, but seeing a couple of youngsters would be a good thing. I mean, John, who are you most afraid of? I know there's some obvious answers there, but, you know, in terms of the Bournemouth team, where do you think someone needs to have the game of their life to keep out maybe Diaz or Salah or Firmino or Jordan Henderson's marauding runs?
Yeah, I think obviously Salah is obviously the first name on the team sheet, the first name that you look at and just think, God, how are we going to deal with that player? And then also Luis Diaz has obviously been very impressive as well, coming in and basically fitting in immediately into the Liverpool team. The one thing I would say is that you not having Nunez is actually a really big thing for me, I think, in terms of Firmino is, you know, has shown to be a fantastic striker for Liverpool in the past, but he's certainly not the player that he was. And what obviously he likes to do is drop a little bit deeper and try and sort of fit more into the pockets, try and sort of, you know, sort of look for areas of space to move into, sort of in between the lines. But he doesn't really make runs beyond it anymore. As far as I would think. And yes, you do play a lot of. You do Trent very frequently. Will ping a long ball over to the far side to try and get the odd bit in behind. But Bournemouth are probably going to defend very deep. If there's no one to really occupy the centre backs, then there's going to be a hell of a lot of play that's put in front of our defence. And without someone that's really going to mess around the centre backs, like Haaland did against us at City, you know, there is sort of like a little bit of positive that I can take from, you know, some lack of players that you've got. Obviously, Thiago Silva being out is also massive for us because of his ability on the ball. You've got some other good young players, but no one that can quite fulfill the kind of passing that he puts into the team. I think Carvalho will be an interesting one if he starts. I think obviously sort of rumours I feel is that he probably will, which would be an interesting one because I do think he's a very good young player. But yeah, it's if we could well sit deep and just try and frustrate you the whole game, and would make it very unlikely that we get much going forward. But you know, it's an interesting one for me to see exactly how Parker wants to set up in this game. But yeah, I think the lack of Nunez is an interesting one.
Jen, as always, absolute superstar, pretty much funds the channel single-handedly. Always appreciate when you get involved and send us some stickers. Now, Owen, let's be honest, a low block is Liverpool kryptonite, isn't it?
Saying that, though, in recent weeks, even when teams have been pressing us, like, we've struggled then. So at the minute, you can't win either way. But yeah, I think, low block, traditionally in the past, over the last few seasons under Klopp, we have massively struggled. That's where we drop points, not in the maybe bigger games against the likes of top 6, but in these games where you're like, oh, you expect Liverpool to win against sort of more relegation teams, and yeah, we end up struggling. But yeah, Kris Mepham, I've seen a bit of him, to be fair, for Wales in the past, and I think it's kind of mixed with him because he makes mistakes. He can make an odd mistake. He's quite injury prone, I think, at times, if I remember correctly. So it'd be interesting to see how he does against. So he'll be on the right hand side of the back three, so up against Luis Diaz. So I reckon Luis Diaz could have a good opponent there and take him on. So yeah, but I just want to see Luis Diaz though kind of get on the ball and go past his opponent. Like whenever he's got it, recently he's received it, kind of looked up, and then is not on. So he just needs to get it and just run and trust himself more. I think if he does that, then you'll see the Luis Diaz that we saw from January until the end of the season.
And Jen, yes, Crystal Palace. Anthony's got it in the chat for you. Matty, there's been a lot of FSG out this week. Social media has just been a place to avoid. I read one and I couldn't help myself. I had to reply to it, which is FSG have ruined our club. Ruined a club that was on the verge of financial ruin. Won us every major honour in the game. Signed us Klopp. Rebuilt 2 stands. Got us a new training pitch. I mean, they really have ripped us apart, haven't they, Matty? And I know, obviously, I'm not saying they're the greatest owners in the world. I'm not saying that there's not additional things that they could do. I'm not saying that I'm a massive FSG fan. But to say they have ruined our club is just bratish behaviour of the utmost crazy degree, isn't it?
Yeah. Where I see FSG at now is I think they're at the point where they probably should sell us. But what they've done for us in a sense of from where we was under Hicks and Gillette, realistically, if you think about it, we needed a businessman to come in and run the club properly for a few years. And they've given us one of the best training complexes in the world. I think only Spurs beats us, or it might be level on it. You've expanded the Annie Road, or they're in the middle doing the Annie Road. They've done the main stand and they plan to do the Kenny as well. So that's like expanding the longevity of Liverpool. Like, look at Manchester United now. When we were all younger, looking at that club, they had everything, the big stadium, the nice training ground. That's Liverpool now. Our training ground's even best in the likes of Manchester City's because that was built during the Commonwealth and stuff. So what FSG have done for the club is been decent in terms of a business standpoint, protecting the longevity. But if Liverpool want to continue competing, we've got the best manager in world football, if we're being realistic, at the helm. If you back him, he's going to win so much more than what he already has. Yeah, he's given us the first league in 30 years, but if Klopp would have been backed a bit further, I think he probably would have got maybe 2 or 3 leagues in that time. So I think they do need to sell us more, so Liverpool can keep competing. If they don't want to put the money into us, they probably don't. They want to buy an NBA side. That's going to cost them over $1 billion. They're going to be tight with the money. And that's just what's happening. I mean, Damon, one of the writers, spoke to a Red Sox fan, and what's going on there seems very similar to what's going on in Liverpool, where big players are running down contracts. They won't give them a new contract and then go into rivals and stuff like that. They're bringing in kids. It's not working. It does sound very similar. So I probably would say we need new owners, but what they've done for us while they've been here, they've served the purpose. They've got Liverpool back very business savvy. We're probably the most business savvy club in the league. And for that, they've done decent.
Yeah, and I mean, they bought us for what, £350 million?
Yeah.
We're now worth £3.5 to £4 billion based on the Chelsea sale. So they're going to make a pretty decent return because they're not leveraged in debt. They're not taking money out of the club. They're not, funding their lifestyle like the others or anything like that. It's not oil money. It's not slavery money or anything like that. It's a well-run business model. But this is becoming the plaything of the billionaires. John, if you had, a business, if you had a club that was run like this and you got brand new training ground, improved your stadium, you won some cups and stuff like that, would you be shouting for the owners out? Do you just look at Liverpool fans and think, what the hell are you going on about?
I mean, I haven't, obviously, when I look through social media, I'm obviously more in the Bournemouth bracket and maybe looking at lower ends of Premier League kinds of championships. So I haven't seen any talk of FSG out. I've obviously seen a few bits of it in the comments. And I suppose in terms of what that sort of message entails is a sort of, I can understand what's behind it, because football is an incredibly emotional game. It's an emotional sport. It's an emotional endeavor. But FSG have treated it like a business. And I think that has been incredibly successful for Liverpool. I think if anyone was to say that FSG has not been a success, I think they need their brain checking, because that's just ridiculous. Where you were and where you are now has been a fantastic improvement. And when you look at money spent, money made, improvements to the club, improvements to the stadium, like, I can't look at that as anything other than brilliant. But the thing is that fans don't want to see their club treated necessarily like a business to this extent. You want to see a little bit more money available because injuries are hitting you. You think you need another midfielder. I want a replacement for Firmino, or I want another option to back up another position. We're looking at this here, and when the owners are saying no, that's when the frustrations come in, and I totally get behind that. I think saying that they've been bad or that is wrong, but to say that you would like someone else to come in and maybe be a bit more of a fan about it, and maybe say, no, we are going to spend 100 million on bringing in Bellingham from Dortmund, and we are going to spend this on a replacement for whoever. But you did spend however much on Darwin Nunez and whatever else. So look, I get the sentiment behind it, but I think obviously the message can be a bit clouded sometimes.
I think John summed it up quite well, hasn't he, Owen? He played. It's emotion. We want what's best. Everyone's always going to want one more. It's basic human nature to just never be satisfied with where you're at. You just want that one more signing, or just take us above. That one more will do this. That one more. That one more. That one more. Or are we just asking for sensibility? What do you think the majority of fans? Because the majority are just asking for a midfielder. That's all we want now. Where do you sit on this?
Yeah, exactly. We're not asking for Jude Bellingham this summer. We're not asking for a £150 million player. We're just asking for a decent midfielder who's quality, can come in the squad, be a good option. And look, with the options that we've got, if we're being totally honest, a lot of Premier League talent, like even from teams who lower down on the table, who normally you'd go, there's not many players you take from there this season. And the standard of quality is so high. And from so many teams, there's players that would get into your side, which I think is healthy for the competition, healthy for the game, but it's still kind of frustrating in the sense that, there's not. And we talk about, we're trying to find that perfect player to come in, and I understand that. I understand how we want that one individual, but you sometimes do have to look at second choice, third choice, and what you can go from there. So it's frustrating for sure. To see the clubs run like a business, and that people have said, we've got 3 signings. Calvin Ramsey, in my mind, that's not a signing. I don't care what anyone says. We sold Nico Williams, who was arguably, is a better player. For Calvin Ramsey, who's played 20 odd games in the Scottish League. We brought in Fabio Carvalho. We've sold, got rid of Divock Origi, sold Takumi Minamino, and then Sadio Mane's left. So I know we've brought in Darwin Nunez at the same time. And that spend isn't like anywhere near sort of what you expect for a top team. So it's really frustrating, and I find it hard. Longer time goes on to be on side with the owners, especially after everything they've done with the ticket prices, furloughing staff, trying to trademark the Liverpool name. There's endless things where they've made mistakes. The Super League as well, a massive one. So I understand the frustration from both sides, but I am on the FSG outside now, probably, if I had to choose one.
Now, we saw a tweet today, didn't we, Matty? From Henry Winter. It was a reply to somebody, but he just says, I'm looking forward to see Bellingham at Liverpool next year, when they were talking about another player. It didn't feel like it was a sarcastic part of the conversation or anything like that. So have they spent, and is it happening? And is this just Klopp stubbornness to go, this is a player I want, this is the player we're getting? I don't care if it impacts this year.
Yeah, Klopp's very stubborn, very, very stubborn. We've seen it with the centre-back problem. We wanted Konate, and he was like, I'll wait. When we sold Lovren, even though Lovren wasn't amazing for us, he was a good option. And to sell him, he wasn't bothered. He'd wait for Konate. But listen, if Henry Winters said that, he knows something that people don't. Because Henry Winter wouldn't just say something like that if it was just transfer talk. He's too well respected. He's supposed, dare I say it, balls on the line really a bit, to be honest. Because saying he wants to see Bellingham in an LFC shirt, he's looking forward to it. It's basically saying it's done. For me, that's as good as done. That there's Paul Joyce in terms of Liverpool, but Henry Winter for like English footballers and stuff is God tier, and him saying that's just, it's mad. I don't think it'll be this summer. If it is, Fair play, fair play.
He put next summer in the tweet, didn't he? So it's not this one, according to.
Yeah, but it could maybe be in January if they go to the Champions League. I think that's a shout as well. Give them Kaiser 6 months early or something like that. But
no, they'll reject that then if we offer Kaiser. Say, oh yeah, we'll accept the offer, but without Kaiser. Nah.
I really want him, they're mad, but nah, him saying that's serious. That's I didn't believe all the Bellingham talk because Real Madrid took him to the Champions League final and put him in a box with Zidane. Like that's already poaching him. But when I seen Henry Winter say that, it was like it's basically done. I think mad. Jude Bellingham, mate.
Here's hoping. Now, John, you're looking at this Liverpool squad. Obviously, we got rid of a few players and stuff like that recently, some of our fringe players. More recently, you've been linked with Nat Phillips, as a potential centre-back. I think it was 74% chance of happening on transfer market. I was saying on your stream that I think it depends on Matip coming back to whether either... And it may not be permanent, maybe on loan, whether Phillips or Sepp van der Berg goes. I think one of them will go before the window ends on loan, probably. From this Liverpool squad, is there anyone that you'd want to, any of the sort of squad players that you'd want to bring into Bournemouth?
They've learned from the mistakes.
Well, yeah, I mean, Nat Phillips did well for us, definitely, when he came on loan, helped us get promoted, and would be, I think, a decent option as someone on loan. I think we do need one more centre-back if we are going to be playing a back three for a large part of the season. Mepham is the player that is probably the easiest to upgrade out of the players we have in defence at the moment. But we have been. I know we were linked with Sepp van den Berg for a bit as well. Although I think the news was that Phillips was going to cost us, and Sepp would be on a loan, and I would be happy to take the loan rather than necessarily shell out because the rumours were 15 million, I think, for Nat Phillips, which I think is a bit much. I don't not rate Nat, but I do think that maybe is a little bit expensive when you consider, we just brought in Marco Senesi from Feyenoord, who was playing in the Europa Conference League last season, the Europa Conference League final last season. We got him for 15 million euros, and he's, Nat Phillips is not proven at the same level. He's done decently for Liverpool. He was it was him and your other squad centre back that was given that big cheer by Klopp to say thank you for doing the job when we had a load of injuries. Yeah, I think certainly that's an area that's probably the most likely area. I think we're looking for competition at left wing back as well. I mean, so I don't know who you've got that's young and needs experience out on loan, but we wouldn't mind a left.
Everyone wants to give you the Ox. Do you want the Ox at left wing back?
Everyone in the comments.
Everyone wants to give you the Ox. Now
we take him for free.
I'll try. If you want.
You keep your medical staff busy. That's what we can say for certain.
Definitely. Are there any players in the Bournemouth squad that you would take? Any players that you think would be capable of taking a step up?
Oh, that's a good one. Owen, is there anyone that jumps out to you? I was always a big fan of Billing, but that's just a height thing and just a power and presence thing. I don't think he's kicked on as much. Anyone for you?
Maybe the time has come and gone for Jefferson Lerma. I remember at one stage he was kind of dubbed to have that big move, but at 27 now, I don't think maybe that would happen. But he definitely go to a bigger Premier League team, maybe I don't know, it kind of screams like a Tottenham or an Arsenal, a team like that, really. So maybe that could happen in the future. But I'm not really sure how much money would you want from for Lerma. What sort of fee would you be looking for?
He's still our record signing, £25 million. So it would be at least that, certainly. The one player I think, from my opinion, I think that there's two players I think that you could probably take and put well into that squad is Lewis Cook, who I think still has more improving to do. It's just his injury record is unfortunately a bit poor, but his quality on the ball is undeniable. And the other one I think is when Firmino moves on, maybe the end of this season, I think you should be looking at Dominic Solanke again. I don't want him to leave.
Welcome back. No way. No chance.
No, you haven't. He's just you haven't. When he shows what he can do in the Premier League, you'll be impressed. He has really moved on. But yeah, he's.
There's a reason he won Golden Boy, though.
He's so much better on the ball. He's so much more confident. You signed him for a reason and let him go because he had no confidence. And now that he's got it again, he's really showing what he can do. But I know that most Liverpool fans won't like it because he was sat on the bench for however long. But when he gets a run of games, he'll show the league what he can do.
It's not a bad play. He won the Golden Boy at Under-19s World Cup, didn't he?
Yeah.
But Ryan Brewster done that as well. He was mad as a kid, and then he's terrible. But I was amazed when Bournemouth paid that money for Dominic Solanke. Like, I was just thinking, what do we do to Bournemouth? Because they always pay mad money for our dead blood. It's mad. But when Solanke went for that much, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, he was unbelievable in the Championship for them. To be fair, he was phenomenal for them last season. But for us, I couldn't have him back. I really couldn't, to be honest. He just wasn't good enough. I think he's probably a Premier League worthy player, but probably not top level Premier League worthy player. Probably like mid-table.
But Solanke's value, Jordan Ibe, is we just ripped them off. I mean, we really did them over.
That was an unfortunate one.
As well.
Nah, but with Jordan Ibe, when we had Sterling and Ibe, loads of our fans believed Ibe was the better player than Sterling at the start. Jordan Ibe had massive potential, and that could have been looked at as a good buy by Bournemouth, but then obviously he did have problems off the pitch and stuff with his mental health and that, and it ruined his game. So I think Jordan Ibe had all the potential to be one of the league's best players, to be honest. He was unbelievable when he first came through at Liverpool.
All right, Brad Smith, defend that one.
I can't defend that one. I think he did
5 million, 3 million, 5 million, 6.
Brad Smith, wasn't he?
Yeah, I don't think that's you can afford to lose out on a £6 million signing. I think when you're in the Prem, 15 is a little bit more unforgivable. I think, but Jordan Ibe he just never got going. The problem is he forgot what to do on the ball. He'd square up the defender and take 5 seconds to give it straight to him, and that's where we got to with Ibe. Over half a season, after a full season, I think he got 2 goals. In his first year with us, and then it all went downhill from there. Dom Solanke, it didn't start great, but I mean, Liverpool's fully baked into his charm, which we love. Just the amount of rubbish that obviously Bournemouth got for paying 19 million for him, and now he's worth well more than that. After if Morgan Gibbs-White can be for 25 going up to 44, then Solanke's worth at least that.
Yeah, fair enough. He's had a good season. How many goals did he get last year in the Championship? It was
29 goals, which
without second, wasn't it?
That was second behind Mitrovic that season, who was obviously ridiculous. But that still puts him in top 5 greatest Championship goal-scoring seasons.
I was going to say he's like 2 away from breaking the 30, which is, I think, only 3 players have ever done it.
Yeah, Pukki, Mitro, and Tony. The only ones that have broken 30, and he was 1 away.
So I think Kiefer Moore get like 3 goals in 2 games as well. He was like mental towards
he got 4 goals in 60 minutes of game time. His goals per minute ratio was ridiculous for us.
But Carigi level.
Right up there.
Right, gentlemen, we're going to move on to score predictions as we're coming towards the end of the stream. Owen, I'm going to start with you. I know you don't want to do it. Nobody wants to do score predictions, but please put your score predictions in the chat. I want to know who's going to score. I want to know what you think the score is going to be. So first goal scorer, final score. Owen, kick us off.
I'm going to go 1-0. I'm going to play it safe. 1-0. I'm going to
go for a clean sheet, mold.
Mohamed Salah goal.
Matty.
I've made a fool out of myself on this year, Could have 9 points by now. I think we're going to see a reaction. So I'm gonna go 4-0. Yeah, same as Drew, 4-0. I think we're going to see a reaction. I was going to say 5, but then I thought that's a bit too much. So I'd say 4 maybe, and I think we'll see Carvalho get Coppa and goal. That's what I'd like to see.
Now, John, as you know, I said it on the Cherries Red Army stream. I reckon this is going to be the announcement of Salah in this year's Premier League. I think it's going to be a 3-1. And I think Salah's going to get a couple. Even though everyone said he started slow, he's got 2 goals in 3 games, which ain't bad, really. John, how do you think it's going to go? Your channel are going hearts 1-1, heads 3-1.
Yeah, on that preview and on all the other previews I've did against the previews I did against City and Arsenal, I think Owen for 3-1 losses. I like that you've all been a little bit more kind to us than the City and Arsenal fans that we had on. I think the Man City fans said 6. I think they both said something like 5 or 6-0. Which it didn't quite reach those numbers, thankfully. Have another think through it, I think I'm probably inclined to go to match Owen. Actually, I think Bournemouth are going to make this as difficult and tight at the back as possible, and just as particularly as we're away from home, Arsenal, I think we tried to be a little bit more adventurous, and it completely backfired. Whereas City, I think 2 of the 3 goals first 3 goals we conceded were just on the counter when we tried to actually push out. I reckon we can sit in, make this as difficult as possible, and you'll probably get a 91st minute deflected goal from Carvalho or Diaz that'll just bounce past the keeper or something, and we'll lose 1-0.
How depressing is I'm like, yep, I'll take that right in the moment. Yep, I'll take a deflected 91st minute winner. But this has been a match preview. This is LFC Transfer Room. If you are new here, please like and subscribe to the channel. Please also like and subscribe to the Cherries Red Army AFC Bournemouth channel. Even if you're just going to do it for the bants of the weekend where they can have a dig at you and you can have a dig at them. It's all about enjoying football and having a great time. Thank you very much to Owen, Matty and John. This has been LFC Transfer Room. This has been the match preview. And tomorrow, we get our first 3 points. Take care, and we'll catch you on the next one.